Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week we are discussing the first 3 episodes of Season 2 of Muppet Babies from the fall of 1985. And those are the episodes titled Once Upon an Egg Timer, Piggy's Hyperactivity Book, and Fozzie's Last Laugh, which we'll definitely discuss the naming of these episodes when we get into that, because...
I think I've said this before, you gotta name them something.
You gotta name them something.
Name.
But there's a couple points inside these episodes where I'm like, that's a better name for the episode. You just said it.
Interesting. Okay.
But before we get into talking about those episodes, Sam, the people don't know this, but this is the first time we have recorded in 2024.
That's right. We took a break.
We took a little bit of a holiday break.
I haven't seen you in a dog's age.
I saw you 2 days ago.
Okay. It's kayfabe.
Oh, right. In podcast universe, we don't hang out or see each other outside of the times we're recording this.
That's right.
I've never seen your legs. You're the opposite of Nanny. I've never seen your lower half. Yeah, just ignore the fact that we do Patreon live streams in person in the same room.
It's a green screen.
Very sophisticated technology we've got here over at commitment.com.
That's why we need you to send money on the Patreon.
Yeah, all that Patreon money goes to making a CGI double of me so that I don't actually have to go to Sam's house, which is like 5 minutes away from me.
My render farm. It's outrageous. My power bill.
But since we are in a brand new year, Sam, I got to ask, do you have any New Year's resolutions? Either podcast related or personal related? Just, be a better person.
Have you ever done a New Year's resolution? Like,
I don't think
by
I've
the
ever
end of the
done.
year, have you ever been like, I can really put a check mark next to that?
I mean, I definitely don't remember any of them by like 6 months in. So whether or not I did it or not,
6 months, wow.
That's probably being generous, to be fair. But I think it's more so that it's not that I don't do it. It's that I completely forget what I said or planned on doing.
Yeah, totally. You got to write it down. And then maybe you do write it down, and then you write it down on some page of a notebook that you never look at again and forget instantly. I want to chew my food more, eat slower. That's one of them.
All right.
I eat really fast, like crazy fast. And I just don't enjoy my food. But I have a problem because I started doing this and it's like, this is kind of gross. I don't want to like chew my food this much.
You're like thinking about the food too much now.
Yeah, it's a texture issue. After you get to like, how many are you supposed to do? 20-something chews, 30-something chews?
I think it's like 30.
I tried to do like 32 and I was like, this is just mush. I can't handle this.
Well, and there's some foods.
Probably all
I don't know
foods are
about
different.
you.
Soup, you don't gotta chew 32 times. That would be nuts. It would probably get harder if you chewed it that many times.
Well, and I feel like there's certain foods that I look back and I'm like, I don't know if I chew mac and cheese.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. So there's that. I also want to, I'm stealing this from another podcast I heard, but finish more projects than I start. Because I have projects that are 5 years out that I'm just like, I want to do this, but I'll work on it a little bit. Then I'll be like, it's been too long. I have to start over again. That's my problem. I just like start things over too much.
Yeah, I feel like I have like 20 of those as well where like, I've done music things, I've done editing things, I've done a bunch of different things where I'm like, I want to do this cool big project.
Yeah.
And then something else distracts me, life happens, and I just put it aside. And then, when I go back to start it again, I'm like, I don't know where I was in this process.
Yeah.
And I guess I have to start all over, which is going to make me stop at the exact same point I stopped at last time. So,
or even your taste has changed. So you're just like,
ooh,
I hate this. I couldn't possibly look at this another second.
Yeah, I haven't released any music in literally 10 years. And most of the songs that I have in my head or written down somewhere are also like 8, 9 years old at this point. And I think about like, oh, maybe I should just record those. And then I think maybe I don't like those songs anymore.
Exactly. And then there's one for the podcast. This is starting a project, so I'm already breaking my rule. There's one big thing I really want to do for the podcast that I've been talking about for a long time. But I'm not going to say what it is because then everybody will know what it is. You know what it is. If you think about it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the more I think about it, the more I'm like, that's a fucking good idea. I got to just do it. But it's hard. It's like a time-intensive idea. So.
Knowing what the idea is, I am not surprised it hasn't happened yet because I wouldn't do it. It seems really hard.
I've done stupider things, so I know I can do this. That's not the problem. Part of the problem actually is that the thing I want to do has external factors that are so complicated that I can't quite figure out the best way to go about them. There's just like an infinite amount of options for how to start, and that's where I'm getting hung up right now. But I will say no more about this mystery thing that I want to do. It'll be a Patreon thing, I think, whenever it happens, though. So stay tuned. In 2027, you'll hear more about it.
Yeah, right around the time we're talking about, Muppets Go to Walt Disney World, this thing will be revealed.
Time to unveil. How about you?
Yeah, I haven't thought about it too much as far as personal. Like, I thought about more podcasts than personal. And my personal one is a bit vague, where it's just like, text and see friends more.
That's not vague. That's a great one.
It works, though, because I feel like, obviously, all of us over the past few years haven't been seeing people as much as we used to pre-2020.
Also, just beyond that, we're old.
We are old. We are getting old. Later this year, Sam, we will turn 37.
That's horrifying. Also,
That's
me and
such
you
a big
did
number.
Go out on Friday, and we went home at like 10, and I was like, I'm so tired. We got a lot done in those, Well, we started at 5, so 5 hours of hanging out. That's a great amount of time.
See, you transpose that. That's probably not the right word. Back into when we were in our 20s, where we would have started hanging out at 10 o'clock
at like 8 or something.
Yeah. So like if you take 5 hours from then, it's actually really impressive that we hung out until 10 o'clock.
We're cool.
But I think that's the main thing is I just realized, it's very easy to fall into patterns. It's very easy to say like, oh yeah, I hang out with Sam all the time when we're recording this podcast. And realize that's not really hanging out.
Yeah, I mean, I do hang out with you more than I hang out with a lot of other people.
Right, and I think that's what tricks my brain is I'm like, I talk to Sam constantly.
Yeah.
Specifically about Muppets for 90% of the time, though.
Which is fine.
But as far as podcast-related resolutions, I might have even said something like this last year because it's always in the back of my mind when we're recording. But it's just kind of be, I guess, nicer about things, even when I hate them.
Okay.
Maybe being more clear that these are my subjective opinions, that this thing just not for me, or I didn't enjoy this, and not, hey, this thing is bad and you should feel bad if you like it, which is sometimes I feel like how people on podcasts, myself included, can come across. And I think to some people that makes them feel bad about liking the thing they like if podcasters are yelling at them that the thing they like is bad.
You're definitely right. That's so hard, though, because some stuff sucks.
Well, but I have this reaction to things where I'll be listening to a podcast and they'll bring up a show that I liked as a kid or a movie I like now, and they talk about it as if everyone agrees it's the worst movie ever made. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize everyone felt this way about the thing I like.
Yeah.
I can never mention in public that I like this movie.
I feel kind of like I have the opposite thing where when I don't like something and then I hear somebody that I respect say, this happened to me with The Boy and the Heron, where I walked out of that, I was like, surely everybody thought that was the most boring movie that's ever been created. Then I read reviews and it was like, oh, this was an extended metaphor that I just didn't get. And then I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. But I think if sometimes if people say like, this thing sucks, I'm just like, great, I'm going to wallow around in the garbage, and I do not mind that at all. But it is like a little knife in the heart when somebody is like, oh yeah, well that, Mad Max Fury Road, that's a really stupid movie. Be like, I love that movie. You've hurt
A
me.
movie I didn't really enjoy that much.
You, you monster. No, but I can also understand, like, I don't know. It is complicated, but yeah, it's hard not to say mean things about stuff.
Well, and I think it just comes down to sometimes, like saying like, this is objectively a bad thing. Like, especially when we're talking about a show for babies.
Yeah,
like,
but it's bad.
but
Mostly,
we're not babies.
When I think it's easy for me to see the people behind it making it and thinking like, but bro, you could have done so much better.
Yeah, I think there is a certain, inside baseball kind of thing that we have as people who create videos and things for a living that we know a little bit more than, the average person. I don't know, my mom about production stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think there are elements where we look at it from like different.
Just like how many people had to put eyes on this before it started to be animated, before it started to be voiced, and be like, you didn't think to rewrite that Skeeter and Scooter shouldn't be brother and sister and have a baby partway through this episode.
That's it's a piece of fantasy, Sam.
Suppose,
they're
but
imagining
there's several other boy characters who could have been there instead.
You're not wrong. It was a weird moment in the episode when you're like, here's the king and queen, and you're like, those two though?
I mean, that is the level where I'm like, okay, that's weird, but fine. And then Skeeter's like, we want to have a baby. And Scooter's like, what?
We do? Yeah, I do. That's the thing is sometimes we look at these things as, come on, 20 people had to have looked through these things and watched them and approved them and all this stuff before it went to air. But sometimes, in the case of this, I wonder if it is just Jeffrey Scott in a room writing these ideas down, looking around. No one's there to tell him no. And he's like, okay, I got to make 100 of these things. Let's get this out the door.
Because I guess, honestly, we have been in that situation as well.
Right. We have also worked on things that people from the outside would go, look at that well-oiled machine that runs smoothly. And we go, okay.
That took several years off my life. Thanks.
This is a duck on the pond thing where the legs underneath are going wild right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just taking into account that my opinion on these things is not the be-all, end-all opinion on these things. And, sometimes things can be poorly made, but sometimes they're just not for me, and those are not always... there's not a clear distinction made when I'm talking about those things.
Well, I don't think of you as a particularly negative person or anything like that, Matt, but I respect your resolution.
One last thing before we get into the bulk of today's episode, I wanted to throw it out there that our 3-year anniversary of being a podcast is just around the corner. It's coming up in March. And I figured we could do some sort of listener question conversation episode.
Oh, yeah.
So I figured this would be my first, ringing the bell saying, hey, send us your questions, conversation topics, questions about Muppets, about this podcast, about ourselves. And once we've gathered, enough together, we can do a whole episode answering those questions, talking about the things you want us to talk about. I know we've got a bunch of things in our inbox at mail@commitment.com that we can talk about. But if you want to send us questions, you can do so on Instagram or Twitter or Threads. That's @CommitmentPod. Or if you've got a longer question for us that won't fit into one of those platforms, you can send it to mail@commitment.com, or there's a contact form on commitment.com that you can use as well. So send in your questions. If you want to send an audio clip of you asking your question so your voice can be on the podcast, you can send that to mail@commitment.com. Really, any way you want to reach out, any way you want to ask a question or just say something that might get talked about in the podcast, send it through one of those channels. Well then, Sam, that brings us to the fateful moment where I ask you to tell the people what we watched this week.
Saturday morning, September 14th, 1985. You are, unfortunately, living in an era where Saturday morning cartoons are terrible, but you're still having a good time eating Golden Grams, wearing your little robe, and watching TV. The Wuzzles just ended, which means that it's time for Muppet Babies. Is that good or bad? You're not old enough to make that distinction. It's a cartoon, which means it must be good and fun, right? This week's episode is called Once Upon an Egg Timer, and it goes a little something like this. While testing out Bunsen's newest, most inexplicable, and most life-endangering invention yet, Rolf screams so loud that he loses his voice. He's real sad because the little dude loves to sing, so the other Muppets decide to cheer him up by conducting a story go-round. Basically, a more kid-appropriate name for an exquisite corpse story. The rules are that each Muppet has 3 minutes to tell a part of a story, and then the next Muppet takes over from where they stopped. So Kermit tells an Indiana Frog story, which Piggy hijacks, ignores, and turns into a Sleeping Beauty story, which Skeeter turns into a police story, which Animal derails by telling a story in which he eats all of reality, leaving only himself floating in the void. At one point, Gonzo almost gets crushed by a big pile of toys, but Rolf yells for him to look out. The babies then realize that Rolf's voice is back, and they're all happy or whatever. You think to yourself, maybe I should have watched the Ewok cartoon instead. New week, new Saturday morning, September 21st, 1985. But you're a kid, so you don't care about that. You change the channel from Bugs Bunny reruns to Muppet Babies. On the edge of your child brain, you know that you don't enjoy watching this show, but you're still compelled to do so. This episode is called Piggy's Hyperactivity Book, and I could probably sum up the plot in 5 words, but I won't. It's raining and the babies are bored, so Nanny gives them an activity book, the pages of which the babies extrapolate into imaginary worlds. Piggy and Gonzo have a sexual harassment-based paper doll war. They play a very literal game of Monopoly where they have, hotels that they're running and stuff like that. Scooter transports them all into his computer to do a maze, but that gets dangerously close to being interesting, so they bail on that very fast and yell at Scooter, and then they go to a coloring book world before Nanny comes in to tell them that it is nice out and they can go play. But they're having too much fun playing with the coloring book to go outside, plus I'm not sure that they've ever actually been outside, so they might be scared to go outside. I would be. Another Saturday, September 28th, 1985 to be exact. Another morning, you wake up early to watch some really trash television instead of doing literally anything else. But again, you're a kid, so who cares? This week, you gave Adventures of the Gummy Bears a shot, and that one actually seemed pretty good. Then the Smurfs started, and you could not handle the Smurfs, so you flip to Muppet Babies. But is that better than the Smurfs? You don't have time to care about that before the title, Fozzie's Last Laugh, appears on the screen. Fozzie Bear loves telling jokes, and his friends love telling him that his jokes are terrible. And today, for some reason, he listens to them, as well as to Nanny, who can't hide her disdain for a particularly terrible joke that he tells her. He turns to his friends for help being more funny, but fails to learn anything and decides to give up comedy. The babies offer to help him find a career that he is passionate about. So he considers being a salesman, an oil tycoon, and a rock singer, but ultimately decides that really he'd be terrible at anything that he would try to do. The other babies start to feel bad and also realize that a sad Fozzie is just as, if not possibly more annoying than a happy Fozzie. So they tell him that while he may not be funny, he shouldn't give up on his dreams yet. And he's just a baby, so maybe he'll get better when he's older. The viewer, however, is burdened with the knowledge that he will not get better as he gets older. In non-Muppet 1985 news, the truth of the matter is that this imaginary child that I've been talking about may very well not have been watching any TV shows at all around this time, because Super Mario Bros. For the NES came out on September 15th, and any intelligent child would be playing that instead of watching the Muppet Babies.
Also worth noting that this is the same 3 weekends that Little Muppet Monsters aired that we talked about last time.
Right.
So you really had to wallop those those Saturday mornings of a back-to-back Little Muppet Monsters, Muppet
yeah, a bit
Babies.
Of a fever dream happening.
But moving into season 2 of a show is always interesting to see if lessons were learned from season 1. I would say, Sam, based on your summaries, doesn't sound like you enjoyed any of these episodes. I enjoyed 2 out of the 3 of these episodes. And
properly enjoyed?
I mean, I think given the context that these are, again, not made for me, but, I tried that last season, didn't really help that much. I think for 2 of these episodes, there was a couple times I legitimately laughed.
Yeah.
And I think 2 of these episodes are better than any season 1 episode.
I think that is definitely true. Can I guess which ones they are?
Yeah.
Was it Piggy's Hyperactivity Book and Fozzie's Last Laugh?
I mean, one of those is right, but your odds were pretty good to get one right.
That's true. Oh, wow. You liked Once Upon an Egg Timer, huh?
Yes, I despised Fozzie's last laugh.
I thought that one was okay only because it had a plot. Like, you could say what the plot was of the episode.
I think there's a key difference, I think, between those first 2 episodes and season 1, in that the last 8 minutes don't feel useless.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I feel like they've hidden the uselessness somewhere in the middle.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
But we had, many of our issues with season 1 episodes were that they hit the, 14 to 16 minute mark of an episode, and they had clearly wrapped up the story they meant to tell and went, well, shit, we still have 8 minutes left. And so they tacked on, a musical number or a scene that didn't fit into the plot really or barely mattered or was just so off the rails, and you're like, oh, this is just padding for time. And I felt like the first 2 episodes didn't do that in a way that I think was clear because I was on the lookout for it. Where I was like, certain points I'll pause it to do something else, and I look and I'm like, oh, this is how far how far I am into an episode. And sometimes that's dreadful because I'm 6 minutes into a 25-minute episode and I can't believe it's only been 6 minutes. Whereas these was a couple times where I felt like I was really near the end and the shoe hadn't dropped yet. I hadn't felt that switch over into the padding for time section of the episode. And so that was a relief to not have that. Whereas I feel like the Fozzie episode for me has one of the worst padding for time sections we've ever seen.
Which one? The oil baron one?
No, the encyclopedia scene.
Oh, that didn't even absorb into my brain at all. So
exactly. Yeah. But it's 4 minutes long.
I think to me that almost made the episodes more beige or just more boring because it was kind of funny when you could tell, to me at least, when you could tell that they were okay, now let's, I guess, be a detective for no reason because we have a few minutes left. But this one is, I don't know. I just find this show very boring. And I'm trying really hard not to find this show very boring.
Right.
But it's just so, it's so disjointed. And,
and again, for babies, feels more predictable than anything else we watch. Yeah. So you're just I feel like you could fall asleep halfway through an episode and guess how it ended most of the time.
I mean, you could hear the first line of an episode and possibly guess how the episode ends.
Although I will say this first episode, Once Upon an Egg Timer, starts off with Piggy pulling Gonzo's nose out about 3 foot long.
Yeah.
And then he cuddles it and says, oh, no, I think it's dead.
It's dead. That was a moment where it was what is the point of the conceit where they're imagining everything if they can do stuff like pull Gonzo's nose all the way out of his head?
Yeah, there's a few moments in some of these episodes that stand out where it is not clear that we are supposed to be in imagination land or that this thing is not actually happening. And this is the first moment of the first episode of the second season where Piggy pulls Gonzo's nose out 3 foot long, and then he continues to pull it out until it's 10 feet long and wrapped around him. And this just seems to be happening in a corner of the nursery where all the other kids are just hanging out, not doing anything weird. And again, you have to assume it is fantasy. But we've also seen Gonzo's limbs stretched on the Muppet Show.
Yeah.
So there's a potential for this kind of thing to happen to him.
The power he has, yeah. And you say that they're off in the nursery not being weird, except that they're a talking bear, a talking frog, a talking dog. So.
Well, in this episode, Bunsen and Beaker are here, which is my least favorite trait of these episodes usually.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they don't do much in this episode.
Yeah, they might as well not be in the rest of it. And maybe aren't. I can't remember.
Yeah, I honestly don't. Oh, they are. I know for sure because there's a moment later with Bunsen that actually mattered because this is the episode where Rolf loses his voice. This is the one where I said there's a better name for this episode in the episode. And it's when Kermit pretends to be Indiana Frog and he says, Raiders of the Lost Bark.
Yes, that is a much better. And it took me an embarrassingly long time to realize that that's they were looking for Rolf's voice still. Because it felt like they had left that aspect of the episode behind. Because a lot of the early jokes are just Gonzo's a detective. And he's oh, can you describe what your voice looks like? But then by the time they're telling the story, that is a couple story beats past us.
And that's exactly my point about Bunsen, is that later on in the episode, everyone else has completely forgotten about Rolf, about the point of why they're telling these stories. They're not even telling the stories to Rolf. They're just telling stories like they would every other week. And at one point, we see Bunsen talking to Rolf, like, hey, buddy, how you doing? Has your voice come back yet? And so he's the only one who cares about Rolf. Because we for sure learn Nanny doesn't give a shit about Rolf.
Yeah, Nanny is like, so at the beginning of the episode, they like smash something up as they normally do. And Nanny walks in and she's like, are you guys okay? And then beats feet out of the room so fast as the babies are like, well, we're still assessing whether or not we're okay. And Rolf is literally like running behind her like, I thought he was choking on something, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it was
like
scary.
You have a room full of babies. You heard a loud crashing noise. You come in and you're like, hey, is everyone okay? You check on 3 of them and you bolt is basically the Nanny way of doing things. And she never comes back into the room this entire episode.
Yeah.
So, like, Rolf could have been choking on something. The babies wouldn't have been able to do anything for him.
No.
But he does. He chases after her to let her know. Yeah. And he's just sad, and he sits down, and everyone else realizes, oh, he lost his voice, which seems like a bit of a medical emergency. A crash would cause you to lose your voice.
Yeah. I mean, it's because he's screaming, right? And also, what is that machine supposed to do? The 3D TV show machine.
It's a do-it-yourself 3D TV show machine, obviously. Basically, it seems like it is supposed to put you inside of these elements of your own shows, which is kind of what they do every week also. That's not like a new thing for them.
Right.
But we see clips from the Indy 500. We see clips from the Death Star trench run that I think is actually from Star Tours.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's not actually from like the movie shot. I think it is from Star Tours.
Because it's a POV shot. Is that why?
Well, I think it's the way it's shot looks a little like more cheaply shot than the actual movie scene. We also see the Indiana Jones, the ball rolling down, which this is where, that weird reality line gets crossed in a couple very strange ways. We see the Indiana Jones ball rolling towards Fozzie, and it turns into a tomato that hits him in the face because the show fucking loves tomatoes. And that's because he criticized it, saying, like, this doesn't look very 3D. And then it turns into a tomato that hits him in the face. Sure.
In real life? In fake life? Who knows?
Right? Like, neither one makes sense.
What drills through the little wagon that they're in and ruins Scooter's pants?
That was my next point.
Power drills on this ride?
The next thing that happens is we see a clip of a black and white Roman chariot movie. And in those movies when they're using like the little spiky things to drill into each other's chariots to cause damage that I guess kills them. I don't know.
Mess up the chariot? I don't know either.
Yeah. That happens in this one. And we see a little drill into a chariot, which is presumably the wagon that the Muppets are in. And we cut back to real Scooter, the baby, who grabs his butt and says, hey, my pants. And then that's it. We just move on. I thought maybe we'd see Animal like biting his butt or something.
No.
But we don't see anything.
Bunsen's just invented a saw machine, basically.
Yeah, that just drilled into Scooter's butt.
It makes sense to me that you would scream so loud on this ride where you were in bodily, like, imminent danger of death that you would lose your voice, I guess.
But I mean, really, they're just in a wagon that Gonzo starts to rock back and forth a little bit. So the worst case scenario is you fall 1 foot to the floor.
They're going really fast, I think.
I don't think they're moving.
It looked like they were going, really. You don't think they're moving?
No.
Yeah, they were. They were in like a...
I think that's the imagination part of it.
You think? I don't think so. I think Bunsen really had them careening wildly around the room.
All right.
That was my impression of it, at least.
I thought that was all imagined, that they were stationary except for Gonzo rocking the boat.
Well, that's a problem with this show, is that sometimes they imagine that they're doing stuff that they're doing in the playhouse or in the playroom, and sometimes they're imagining that they're like in Star Wars.
Right. And then when those lines get crossed, you start to wonder what did happen to Scooter's pants.
Is he pretending his pants are destroyed? Not a
Right.
very interesting thing to pretend.
That's why they moved on so quickly. All the other Muppets were like, that's nothing.
He has been shown to have a bad imagination before. So he's like, somebody ripped my pants.
He just tries that every time they're imagining something. He's like, hey, my pants. And they're like, again? With the pants?
Scooter. I'd rather have you talking about your computer too much, honestly.
But after Ralph loses his voice and they're all trying to guess what's wrong with him, this is one of the legit laughs I got. Not in like a, boisterous, big laugh out loud thing, but in a, hey, that was pretty good kind of chuckle. Because Gonzo guesses that Rolf has lost his piano and he wants him to look for it in his tummy. So Gonzo gazes into his mouth and says, well, I can see a couple organs, but no pianos.
That was pretty good. That was like an old school Muppet show joke. I do like, and I made some notes about this later. I do like Baby Gonzo. I feel like Baby Gonzo deepens the character of Gonzo in a way that we haven't necessarily seen by making him, and I think we talked about this before too, like allowing them to show the weird stuff that he's doing instead of just talk about the weird stuff that he's doing.
Well, I also feel like, not all of us, but a lot of us have a friend like this that we knew growing up who maybe didn't grow up at the same rate everybody else did.
Yeah.
And becomes like the weirdo of the group eventually.
Yeah.
And like, you still love
honestly, I would argue that sometimes the weirdo of the group maybe is like, they're operating at a different level. Could be, they could be smarter, Matt.
Oh, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying that like everyone else, there's like a natural path that sometimes people fall into as you go through junior high, high school, college, like that. And then there's like the one friend who you're like, you're doing things different. I see you. And again, not a bad thing, but I think Gonzo is that friend where you're looking back and you're like, oh, I see how the others became who they are and what maybe has changed over the years.
Yeah.
And I also see why Gonzo hasn't changed. And this version of Gonzo still lives inside adult Gonzo's brain at all times. Like he has the same rationale for reasons he's doing things as he did when he was a baby, where it's just like, why wouldn't I do this thing right now?
Where there's a bigger disconnect with other characters, especially like Scooter and Fozzie.
I think, and most curiously, right in this scene, Piggy continues to be the smartest Muppet Baby. Mm-hmm. At all times, she is always the one solving the problems, which you would think, like by default, when you're conceiving the show, you would give to Kermit. But Kermit is often a background character in these stories.
Yeah, he's the Leonardo of the group, where he doesn't really have that much to do.
So is Piggy the Raphael?
Is she's the smartest? She might be the Donatello. You'd think Scooter would be the Donatello, but Scooter doesn't ever solve any problems with his computer. Everybody just gets really mad at him.
And then Gonzo and Animal are Michelangelo?
Gonzo's Raphael. Because he's cool but crude, I think, for sure.
I mean, yes, he does try to make out with Piggy quite a bit.
That's
crude.
Quite crude. That's the crude part. Yeah. And then I think Animal is maybe a rough approximation of Michelangelo, though Michelangelo is not that uncouth.
Is Skeeter Raphael?
Yeah, Skeeter has got a bad attitude.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. And is always cracking wise.
There's too many of them. We can't funnel like a straight 1-to-1 of there's 4 of them and 4 of them. There's too many.
I guess one's got to be April and one's got to be Splinter or something. One's got to be like
Rolf's got to be Splinter.
Gecko. Yeah, Rolf can be Splinter. They're both fuzzy.
But yes, Piggy is the one who guesses correctly what happened to Rolf, although she does then immediately suggest that they take out their voices so that they can see what voices look like so they know what to look for. So
not
real smart, but
one,
also doesn't necessarily understand how voices work.
She's also most capable of empathy, I would say, of all the Muppets, or at least like striving towards empathy, but it usually gets derailed by her wanting to be like the center of attention. But she does say poor so-and-so pretty frequently.
Yeah, and even later on in the Fozzie episode, where she is sort of the reason Fozzie takes this deep dive into his depression, once the other babies decide to help out Fozzie, she is also on board with this idea. Whereas I thought it was going to shift into Piggy being like, Fozzie's a lost cause. Don't try and help him be funny.
No, Matt, that would be an actual plot. What are you talking about?
Well, I think that's something you can do with adult Piggy. Be like, why are you guys trying to help him? He'll never be funny. But when you have babies, there's a few moments throughout these that like, you can tell like, oh, that feels like a studio note where it's like, hey guys, we got to say education is important.
You can't be too mean. Yeah, and that too.
Although there is a moment later where they just use scissors willy-nilly that felt really irresponsible for a baby show.
They're kind of running around and playing with scissors for a pretty long time.
Mm-hmm. But in this episode is when Skeeter suggests telling a story go round, which I don't know if that's a thing anyone has ever done.
I mean, it's an exquisite corpse. You know?
Right, but calling it a story go round where you like set the timer, start a story, after 3 minutes someone picks up the story feels like a thing that I don't know if they like. It doesn't feel like they would have made it up for this show. But everyone's Muppet Wiki points out the 3 minutes is not an equal 3 minutes for everyone.
Yeah, Kermit obviously gets to vamp. He gets so much time to tell his boring, stupid story.
Well, he wastes like 2 minutes of it trying to figure out how to tell a story.
Yeah.
Because he starts off with, once upon a time, there was this place. Is my time up yet? And they're like, no, you idiot. You just started.
Kind of Kermit's defining feature as an adult is that he has got it, he's got a desire to tell stories and entertain people.
Yeah, but he's a facilitator, Sam. He's a producer. He is not in the writer's room. He's like, hey, writers, good job. You guys are making me look good. So Kermit decides to tell an Indiana frog story, which he calls Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it ends up with Kermit climbing up an Aztec pyramid as he hears howling along the way. Inside, there are booby traps that are all fast food related. There's a giant burger.
So weird.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's a big burger that almost smushes him. There's a big Coke that almost smushes him, a soft drink. And then a bunch of fries that look like Tetris pieces that fall on his head. And it seems like it's going to lead somewhere. And this was my main gripe with the episode, but we'll get into it as it transitions to Piggy.
Yeah, because then the twist in his story is that a giant hand reaches in to eat this fast food. And obviously Kermit is amongst the fries at this point, and so he is about to get eaten.
Yeah, he sees the hand coming, and he hides in the fries. Moron.
No, the fries fell on him, and he can't get up.
Oh, he can't get out? I thought he got out and then got back into the fries.
No, the fries fell on him, I think, and he can't lift them because they're so big, and he's so small. That's when the timer goes off, and now it's Piggy's turn, who immediately no-butts this improv scene.
Yeah.
And says, hey, this story is now about a ballerina sleeping beauty who dances across the stage.
And it's not. So then you'd think maybe at the end, maybe his Kermit's story pieces will come back in and start to intersect. They don't. That was what was frustrating me about this episode was that it's like this is a fun idea.
Right.
Where I think we talked also before about like how sometimes some of the babies have very distinctive types of imagination, like Gonzo and Animal especially, and having those different stories like smushed together into something that gets increasingly unhinged would have been too close to a plot. So of course they couldn't do it.
Yeah, it would have felt more Muppety and more chaotic if they had let all of a sudden the giant hand is reaching in and disrupting the ballerina's Sleeping Beauty thing. And they, as much as they try to move on from the previous stories, those things keep coming back and impacting the future stories because everyone keeps talking over each other and keeps adding in details, and it just turns into chaos. But no, instead we get a pretty straightforward telling of Sleeping Beauty, where Scooter and Skeeter play the king and queen. And this is when Skeeter's queen character suggests having a baby. And Scooter's like, what?
Huh?
And blushes and turns to the camera.
Yeah.
It turns out their child is Piggy Sleeping Beauty, who touches the spinning wheel that Animal brings in, falls asleep, but says a kiss from her handsome Prince Kermit would wake her up. And the timer goes off just before that kiss can happen. So now it's Scooter's turn, and he wants to be a computer salesman. But no one likes that idea, so he changes to a vacuum salesman instead. But instead of that happening, he falls off of a stage into an orchestra pit.
Yeah.
Which wasn't previously part of what was happening, other than when Piggy introduces the ballerina, she says she's dancing across a stage. So
she's on a stage.
Her story is on a stage where Kermit's isn't really. So I guess there's an orchestra pit there. Sure, fine. Really, this is an excuse for us to have a musical number because everyone just goes, oh, since you fell into music.
Oh, Scooter's doing a bad job telling a story. Just sing a song instead.
Yes. They say, well, songs are parts of stories, so why don't you sing a song instead? And so they sing, Show Us the Real You, a cute little song that's basically just, here's all the reasons Rolf is good.
The title of the song is weird to me, I guess, because the issue isn't really like Rolf's hiding any part of himself.
Right. He has no control over the scenario. He would talk if he could.
He's sick. And they almost go somewhere cool with the yellow submarine imagery, I think, too. That was kind of neat.
Yeah, it's bizarre because the song sounds exactly like Born to Hand Jive from Grease.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But the visuals all look like Yellow Submarine for some reason.
Yeah. That's really stupid now that you say it like that.
But the line, he's got floppy ears and a cold, wet nose. He plays piano with his toes, is cute, if not accurate.
That's pretty cute.
Because I've never seen him use his toes to play the piano.
But he could. You know it's true, though. He could totally do it.
He'd be just showing off, though. I don't feel like Rolf is a show-off.
Jimmy Dean Rolf is.
Oh, yeah. No, he would. But Jimmy Dean Rolf would say he could play the piano with his toes, and then
not be able to.
He would find some trick where it looks like he's playing with his toes, but Jimmy would pull back the fence and be like, that's just your friend or your nephew.
He'd put his hand on his head.
Oh, Jimmy, I'm sorry I betrayed you. Will you ever forgive me?
I miss that. I miss that era.
Yeah, there's times for, researching things, putting together clips. We have a catch-up episode where we're going to go back and watch some things that we haven't watched in the past or that have become recently available. And every time I delve back into some of those, Sam and Friends or Rolf things on Jimmy Dean, I'm like, man, that's the good shit.
They were really killing it back then. Yeah, there's something that happened in one of these. Oh, I think it was it's when Fozzie becomes a salesman. In the Last Laugh episode, where it's kind of like similar to something they did on Sam and Friends, and all I could do was just think like, they did this so much funnier. And then I think of like Jim watching Muppet Babies and like stopping the tape and being like, okay, it's like, what does he think about this?
But it's also wild to think of, this era of Saturday morning cartoons and how different it was from sort of when we started watching Saturday morning cartoons. But also the trajectory of Jim's career over 30 years from 1955 of doing like almost a public access show, like doing this 5-minute spot on his local news station to 30 years later, having made several movies and has taken over Saturday morning cartoons and all this stuff. And so he's like just looking around being like, this is my kingdom. I have taken over the world. Every aspect. I've got television. I've got movies. I got cartoons. It's just a wild career that this man
Yeah, seeing the
got to
baby
have.
version of the little puppet that you like hastily made when you were a teenager because you were desperate and would do anything. I mean, it's got to feel good, but it also has to sometimes feel like, this cartoon, Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
I used
not.
to make
maybe
puppets that shot each other and set each other on fire.
Yeah.
Like, my life's different now.
Now this dude has a diaper on. What?
Wilkins wouldn't wear a diaper unless Wilkins made him.
Yeah. If you don't like our coffee, you're a big stupid baby.
People who don't drink Wilkins coffee shit their pants.
It's true. That one I can't argue.
But yeah, maybe we should do like a revisit episode at some point where we go back and just like for one episode rewatch some Sam and Friends or Jimmy Dean just to give ourselves that little hit of sometimes I think peak Muppets was in the 60s.
I still think that too. I think, I don't know. Yeah, Jimmy Dean is still one of the funniest things to me. But it's also crazy to look at Saturday morning cartoons like next year especially, where it's all of the same stuff, but then also Pee-wee's Playhouse, which is just so, I guess making fun of this kind of stuff, definitely, but just so like much more refined than Teen Wolf the cartoon. Or
I think that's the more shocking thing when I look through old Saturday morning cartoons, how many of those things I never knew existed.
Yeah.
That like have not stood the test of time. And I think you get into that nostalgia brain sometimes where you're like, oh, was that show good? Or did I just watch it a lot and I convinced myself that it was good? And then you look back and you're like, right, but that one people still talk about. Teen Wolf, the animated series, not so much.
The Hulk Hogan hour, which is kind of bonkers.
Rock and wrestling.
Looking at it from nowadays, it's like, don't give Hulk Hogan a kids show, please. Also next year, we get into stuff like the Flintstone kids. We start getting the ripoffs of Muppet Babies, which is kind of fun too.
Ooh, we should maybe
The Care
check
Bears.
out.
There's like baby Care Bears that show up. I think there's baby Smurfs that show up. The world got baby fever.
But now it's Skeeter's turn to tell a story, and she decides that she's going to be a police motorcycle cop, which I will say is maybe the most interesting story of all of them.
Yeah, because she starts police brutalize. It's like she starts going out of control.
Yeah, she's
accusing Piggy of stealing the voice and being right, which also doesn't go anywhere.
Yes, Skeeter pats down Piggy up against the wall and spread him. And Piggy yells, "The Screen Actors Guild will never let you get away with this."
Yeah, weird thing to say.
Like, in their imaginations, are they actors in a guild right now?
Yeah, also they're not screen acting, they're on stage. So
You're right.
Piggy's just wrong.
I mean, maybe it's like the Muppet Show, where it's like, is this a TV show? Is this a theater show?
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, Skeeter does find a glass jar on Piggy containing a bark, so Piggy makes a run for it. She gets in a carriage pulled by a couple horses and brings Kermit along. And Skeeter and Sherlock Gonzo, who's been around throughout this episode but not really important, give chase on a couple of motorcycles after the carriage. But this is the part that made me realize this is the rare episode where the last 8 minutes are actually great. And that Skeeter's story is the most interesting part. And I think this is the one that made me realize, like, oh, we're almost done with the episode. And I'm still, like, enjoying this. But, of course, when it gets most interesting, it's time to move on to the next person's turn. So now it's Animal's turn. His imagination is, once again...
mean to him. They're so mean to him when he wants a turn. They're like, you can't even talk. You can't tell a story.
I mean, that's true, though, like, logically.
You do know he's going to ruin the game, basically.
Right, yeah. The story is over once Animal starts. His imagination is once again crayon drawings, which is very good. We've seen that before. And there is some distinction sometimes to the different imaginations of the kids. We see more, black and white film footage for Gonzo, which is something we also see in Little Muppet Monsters. But we see always crayon drawings when it comes to Animal. And Animal has heard their criticism and decides Animal no tell story, Animal eat story.
Animal's really working for me. I think you and Johannes were talking about how Animal is actually scary in this show and how he is like Flanderdized into not being scary.
Mm-hmm.
And it really does stand out that he's like, and the go bye-bye part is the funniest part of every episode, or like sometimes the only good part of any episode. So I do love Baby Animal.
Yeah, Baby Animal is very good. And again, I've heard Frank Oz talk in multiple interviews. He says a similar thing a lot, but it's like Animal eats glass. Like Animal is the one who, at night, he goes out. No one asks questions about what Animal did over the night. As long as he comes back the next day, they don't ask questions. And it's like, yeah, this dangerous, wild side of Animal really has been somewhat eliminated by the time, in the last 10 years of the Muppets. Right. Part of this, I was reminded of this because I've been going back through the Working It Out podcast, which is Mike Birbiglia's podcast, and he has an episode early on with Frank Oz where they talk through mostly Frank Oz's career, and there's some good Muppet nuggets in there of stories about. He talks about the Pied Piper of Astroworld filming, which is a special that we have never been able to find, haven't been able to watch, but it's one of the ones that has Rufus in it. But he talks about a thing in there where him and Jim had to like be in a barrel together filming something because they had two puppets that need to be on top of the barrel. And they like called for lunch and nobody let them out of the barrel. And so they had to like rock back and forth to like knock the barrel over and crawl out sideways. But an interesting thing at the end of the episode is that Mike Birbiglia, the whole point of the podcast is that he's pitching jokes to other people and they give him notes. And he asks if he can pitch a joke to Fozzie and get Fozzie's reaction. And Frank is like, sure, yeah, we'll try it out. And he does it. And there's like a quick little joke where basically Mike Birbiglia says the premise, the setup of the joke, and Fozzie goes, that's funny. And he's like, oh, no, I haven't said the punchline yet. He's like, oh. But it's a very sweet moment to hear Frank dive back into that. He's clearly been a little out of practice with his Fozzie voice, but he's still got the improv chops, which is something I feel like we don't get to see enough of these days, is the Muppets just shooting the shit.
Being off script. Disney would never.
They have the Muppet
okay.
Christmas Carol discussion with Brett Goldstein. I think is one of the best things the Muppets have done recently. But again, getting back to the actual thing we're here to talk about. After Animal eats the whole story, somehow Animal and Gonzo are on top of like something that they fall through. It's kind of unclear what they fall through. And then suddenly there's a giant pile of toys next to them.
A big pile of toys, which I went back to the episode to see if I could figure out where the big pile of toys came from.
I think it is the things that they made the mess of at the beginning when they crashed.
Thing.
And Nanny's like, you guys got to clean this stuff up. I think it's them like starting to clean things up and just putting things in a pile. Because I also had the same thought of like, where the hell did that pile come from? But that does end the episode because once the thing falls, as Sam said earlier, Rolf yells, "Hey, look out!" And everyone just goes, "Oh, hey, your voice is back." And so Fozzie doesn't get to tell his part of the story, which everyone kind of seems relieved by.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
And he starts to try to tell a story, and the timer dings and the credits roll.
Yeah, fuck you.
And the goodbye-bye at the end of this episode is that Big Ben has been turned into an egg timer. Animal counts down. It goes off, cracks the sky, cracks Big Ben. Everything just falls and collapses.
Because Animal is so destructive, he frequently destroys reality.
The next episode we watched was Piggy's Hyperactivity book. Another not greatly named episode. But I think...
No, it doesn't make any sense.
I thought that too.
Okay.
But I think the hyperactivity part is about the structure of the episode itself. Because this whole episode
like
is the kids
all over the place.
Right.
Sure.
As soon as they get bored of what's happening, they're like, "All right, next thing. All right, next thing. All right, next thing."
Why is it called Piggy's a hyperactivity book though? Can they just call it the hyperactivity book or something?
I guess that's less interesting. Like as far as a title, if you're going to have a subject in the title.
Why even have a title? You don't need one.
I guess you don't. I mean, I guess for cataloging later on, you're like, which episode was that? Oh, 7. Did you like episode 7? It would make our lives harder to reference back to other episodes.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably episode 2002 or something, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, this is basically the kids are building a cardboard house at the beginning. And this,
a beautiful one.
Yeah.
So they're doing a great job.
Multi-level. Scooter made the house plans on his computer. And he's like, "Hey, look, I designed my house." And Piggy's like, "You mean my house?" Which is one of the rudest things she's done.
Yeah, but you don't want to argue with her, you know?
Oh, he doesn't
You're
even
gonna ask her
try.
for trouble. Yeah, especially not Scooter.
He does get to say an adorable sentence, though, when Fozzie the house painter shows up. He says, "I'm Mr. Scooter, the architect."
By the time Scooter's an adult, they've really just beat all the imagination and joy out of him.
Yeah, I've never seen that fool use a computer once.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be an architect anymore. He just wants to scam people.
Did you ever build cardboard forts and things as a kid?
No, because I don't feel like my parents had a lot of cardboard sitting around. I feel like, yeah, that seems like a more modern thing that parents would have just like trash sitting around. I feel like in our era, our parents were like buying us stuff and not helping us like craft stuff. At least me, that was my experience.
I was gonna say, not my experience, Sam.
No, you made stuff out of cardboard?
Yeah, a couple different things. I
remember
remember there was like, it was always like appliance boxes, like a big box that you could use. And I feel like once there was a big box that my friends and I had like cut out a window and we set up like a lunch counter kind of thing, like a diner that we were running. We named it the Lunchbox after the restaurant on Roseanne.
That's cute.
That's the kind of kid I was. But more excitingly than
Makes sense.
my brother-in-law once, before he was my brother-in-law and he was just dating my sister, he took a refrigerator box once and like broke it all down, spread it all out, and he drew out a giant NASCAR track for me.
Whoa,
like Daytona,
rules.
like drawn out big enough that I could sit in the middle of the track, like in the infield.
And make the cars zip around?
Yes. And it was so big that I would lay this thing out on the basement floor and I would put like 40 Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars on there and have a full race.
That's awesome. Did you have rules for how the race worked, or?
I mean, it was just like a real race. Like it was just kind of like I was just like scooting things around and like there'd be a crash and then the crashes probably took out like half the cars to make the rest of my life easier. like I don't have to move 40 cars around every lap.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like having this big place set, like when you have those rugs that have like the city on them. But it was just a big old NASCAR track, hand drawn by my brother-in-law.
Remember when we were kids and there were toy commercials where it would be like the Ninja Turtles and they'd be like in a cityscape that was like made out of like cardboard or like...
Yeah.
That's always stuck with me and is always something... Like as a kid, I think I probably had the impulse to be like, I should build that kind of thing.
Yeah, you know what that leads to, Sam? It leads to us being 50-year-old men with model trains.
With lots of... Yeah, I'm really getting close.
Yeah, we're going to become model train guys because we go, oh, we wanted to do that as a kid, and now we can do it as an adult, and it costs $300 per building.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to the model train store in town and was shocked at the prices, I got to tell you.
Yeah, because you think about it sometimes, and you're just like, what could one little, set of figures or an engine cost or something like that? And you realize, like, oh, the people who have built out extensive model train sets have spent thousands and thousands of dollars on ruining their basements.
But everybody turns into a train guy eventually, Even Gomez Adams is a train guy.
He's the ultimate train guy.
He's the original train guy, maybe.
I mean, I'm always impressed, though, when I see a really good train set. I saw somebody the other day posting, I don't know if it was even, like, a local, somebody I knew, whatever. Somebody just posted, saw it somewhere, they shared this. Hey, my grandpa wants to get rid of his train set. And it's like this full basement train set. If anyone can take this, please do. And there was a moment where I thought, could I? And then realized, no, I have no space for that.
Could put it in the basement at work.
Yeah, no one would notice.
Just hide it in the boiler room, like that back room.
Yeah.
Kind of.
They just come down and I'm just like, choo-choo, sitting there with my little controls.
Someone just walks in and they're like, whose train set is this? And I wouldn't fess up. Nobody would fess up.
Thank you for not ratting me out.
And then we'd just be like, well, I guess work has a train set now.
See, you could pitch it as like, hey, if you're bored, you need a little break from your desk, go down, make a train go.
Yeah. Send Hank an email that just says, will you buy this for me, please?
Hey, I think we need a train set at the office.
And I think my job should be train man.
I think it's engineer, Sam, would be my... It's like, oh,
big train man.
Your resume says you're an engineer. Wow. It's like, yes.
Choo-choo.
Man, that train set at the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the size of my house.
Yeah. And I love the ones that have like the cranes that are going and pulling up the stuff. And it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, one day, Sam, we'll put all that Patreon money.
It's inevitable. Yeah, exactly.
Well, when Fozzie shows up as the house painter to paint this house they constructed, I immediately got nervous. Because Fozzie being the house painter seems like a bad idea. And it turns out it kind of is because he actually is painting the cardboard house. Not just in their imagination, but in real life, he is painting the house.
Yeah, big bucket of paint. Big bucket of paint like you buy at the hardware store.
This is maybe the most irresponsible episode. As far as like teaching kids by what they're watching, this one just shows you a lot of things that you would not want your kid to do. Number one, big bucket of paint in the nursery. Bad idea.
Don't do that.
And this is when Annie comes in to clean up the mess after Gonzo demolishes the house accidentally.
I think that the structural integrity has been ruined by all the paint on it, I would guess.
Yes, it's sopping wet cardboard. So,
but everybody blames Gonzo.
Well, he climbed on top of it.
I like when Nanny comes in to clean it and she opens a closet and pulls a full metal trash can on a dolly out of the closet.
This is how often this happens.
These fools are messy. I need a dolly. I need to go to the hardware store right now.
But that's when the kids say, maybe we can go out and play in the backyard. And Nanny shuts that shit down fast.
You can never go outside.
You don't get to leave this house.
I mean, it's raining. And she pushes the button to run rain simulation.
It's wet and muddy out there. Kids. You better stay inside. So she hands them an activity book that just says, fun book on the cover. And
they get more excited about it than anybody could ever possibly get excited about an activity book. There's all kinds of cool games and puzzles in here.
Yeah, it's just got crosswords, paper dolls, and like little board games and stuff. And they see the
little board games. It's literally Monopoly.
Yeah, it's pretty much Monopoly.
Fun Book's gonna get sued for infringement.
But when Piggy sees the paper dolls, she gets excited, and Skeeter says, "I'll get the scissors." So again, worse nanny. Skeeter runs to the drawer and just pulls scissors out of the drawer to use.
Yeah. And runs back.
Yeah. Piggy gets to use the scissors and cuts out a little Kermit wearing boxer shorts.
Yeah, because he can't be naked, I guess.
Oh, that'd be way weird.
Later on, he will discover that he can indeed be nude, and no one will call him out. Well, actually, people call him out on it all the time, and he just says, "Who cares?"
Or I've got a collar on; it's fine.
Does he have a collar on when he doesn't as a baby, right?
He didn't. No, when we just saw him in boxer shorts, no collar. So this is pre-collar Kermit.
It is not part of his body, which I guess has been established many times before.
Yeah, because he took it off and he was naked.
It's like if you bought a collar that was a different shade of your skin color, and why would you do that?
And that counts as clothes.
The paper doll thing, so they she cuts out herself and Gonzo cuts out himself. And then Gonzo's like, I want to smooch you. And then the paper doll thing was interesting.
It was cool. Troubling.
The animation was cool. The concept is troubling, but the duplication and the way that the voices are layered and like the way that they like have to bend to move around and walk around. They're doing something here.
Yeah. No, there's a couple of very good animation things where you have a 2D Kermit walking with a tuxedo taped to the front of him. And he turns around and you see the back of him is still unclothed and Fozzie laughs at him.
That. Fozzie's like, yeah.
But yeah, the idea that Gonzo sees a Miss Piggy paper doll and goes, oh, here's a Miss Piggy I can kiss.
Miss Piggy, and she won't complain about me smooching her. Creep.
Yeah, here's a Miss Piggy that won't say no is essentially what he is saying. And so he cuts out. And then it turns into this wild thing where Piggy and Gonzo can duplicate themselves by cutting just around the edge of their own paper thing.
It don't make no sense.
It's sort of like, when you cut the people shapes and you like pull it and all of a sudden there's like 12 people cut out of a sheet of paper all like holding hands. It's
just
like
a misunderstanding of that concept.
Right. Because it's like you cut out one of those and then you're like, okay, I want 8 of these now. I guess I just cut it again.
I need paper that can cut the atom. I need scissors that can cut the atoms of the paper into two thinner. So, yeah. I actually kind of enjoy, like, Gonzo and Piggy's dynamic is creepy, but I enjoy that she at least has a dynamic with him. I feel like in maybe grown up Muppet times, aside from, like, the Muppet movie, she doesn't have a lot of reason to talk to any of the other Muppets except Kermit.
Right.
So to have at least Gonzo being like, he's got something to talk to her about, and she has some reason to beat him up, which is kind of fun.
But Kermit finds the board game, which again is just Monopoly. We see like them transported into the world of the board game. And at a certain point, Animal pulls the curtain, which makes it dark because it seems to shut the light off in the nursery, which disrupts their game. But when he opens the window, it's dark and rainy outside.
It's dark and rainy. It's a very bright rainstorm, I guess. Mm-hmm. Why doesn't Annie have light bulbs in there for them?
But when Fozzie rolls, he rolls an 11, and it says it's his lucky number. So we learn that about Fozzie. Mm-hmm. Gonzo rolls, and he gets a 13, to which Scooter momentarily goes, hey, because that shouldn't be possible.
I think it's weird that then right after that, Baby Animal also rolls a 13, and it goes unremarked upon. It's almost like it wasn't worth doing the 13 joke, maybe.
Right. I guess it's weird for Gonzo to roll a 13, and he's a weirdo, so that must happen. And they need Animal to land on the space.
Land on the same space as him.
Yeah. So he lands on the St. Gonzo Hotel space, which is the Empire State Building. And instead of having to pay rent or anything like you would in Monopoly, Animal gets to stay in the suite and gets the best room in the place. He gets he orders a big root beer from room service, which is brought to him by King Kong.
King Kong brings it to him, yeah. He's kind of doing a Lost in New York kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. But then, Scooter, again, because this is the way this episode works, decides, all right, we're done with the game. Time to find a maze. So Scooter decides to cheat and beat the maze by using his computer.
In modern day, it's like an AI commentary, you know? It's like,
yeah.
Guys.
Oh, yeah, I can totally solve a maze. Watch this. Beep, boop, boop, boop. Solved it.
I'm so smart.
But really what this does is transport them into the most confusing imagination of this episode.
Not sure what's going on here, yeah.
Yeah. So first, they see some little trolls that find them in like a D&D kind of way.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to take you to the dungeon. And then I was like, oh, cool. But immediately they're just like, well, see you later, guys.
Well, because, when they're running around trying to escape that, Skeeter says, way to go, Scooter. A rat could get out of this maze faster than you. And then we pull back, still within the imaginary scenario, to reveal 2 giant rats watching over them, Dr. Cheddar and Nurse Parmesan. And this is very strange. But even stranger because they're inside the computer maze where we've got trolls and giant rat scientists in the same imagination.
And a genuinely scary Cyclops guy.
Yeah, they have various live action black and white film clips they keep showing, which I think that one, there's an Abbott and Costello meet Hercules clip, I think, in this somewhere, and I think that one might be from that. The Cyclops might be like Hercules related. But yeah.
Imagine Abbott and Costello meet Hercules?
I believe so. I saw it in the credits at the end of this episode.
The Stooges meet Hercules.
That's what it is. The Three Stooges meet Hercules. Not any more logical, by the way.
To me, it makes more sense, though. Abbott and Costello are bound to the times in which they live. And they were meeting Dracula and stuff like that, you know?
So that's...
Frankenstein.
But Dracula doesn't live in the 30s.
Yeah, he lives in all times. He's immortal.
You got me there. But Frankenstein's monster is not immortal. Is he?
Yeah, he is an Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, okay? They bring him back to life. He's killed in his movie. And then
his defining trait.
Those movies are canonical to the old ones.
Like the Universal.
So,
yeah. That's how you got to bring it back. You want to do your dark universe, Universal.
I know, right? Or like the MCU's in trouble right now. So maybe you put like the 21 Jump Street guys in one of them or something, you know?
Or yeah, I mean, fuck, they are doing it now that I think about it. They're doing their whole Transformers G.I. Joe-averse.
Yeah.
Like just throw some Minions and Fast and Furious in there.
The Minions meet they'd be so annoyed with those little guys, but they couldn't, you know? They'd have to bring them along.
Everyone's fed up with Scooter, so they decide to move on to something else. And Rolf finds a page where it says how to make musical instruments out of things you find around the house. Animal plays some pots and pan drums, doing one of the, few on-character things we see in Muppet Babies. And they decide to play a song called Music is Everywhere, which is just a song about music.
I found this section galling because generally when they need to play music, they have no trouble finding an entire array of instruments, right? Or are they always imagining it?
I think they're always imagined.
But there is a real piano, at least.
Yes, but Rolf is not playing that in this. He is playing the water glasses for this 50s rock and roll number that they're doing. Because every song in this goddamn universe has to be a 50s rock and roll song. But this is one of the weakest songs I think we've heard.
Yeah, teaching kids to do bad things, too. Like, pound on the floor is one of the pieces of advice to make music. Pound on the walls.
Yeah. Well, the next activity is connect the dots. Fozzie says, "Oh, it's my favorite." And I was immediately worried that we were going to have another maze situation where he was just going to sadly try and connect dots, but in the wrong order or something.
That would be good. Yeah.
But instead, we get something truly wild. Gonzo dumps out the dots and throws them around the nursery, but is handled interestingly because he throws the dots at people and he connects them and makes a beautiful dress for Piggy.
I thought he did a great job on that dress. Yeah. I was impressed.
And then Skeeter draws a giant butterfly, which flies away. And Scooter's dots won't hold still because it turns out they're book beetles. Not.
Is that a thing?
I think it's like a casual name for mites and things that can eat books. So book beetles are kind of a thing.
Sure.
We learn an animal's favorite section of the activity book is the coloring section because, crayons and stuff. So he colors the screen, which for some reason takes all the color out of the Muppet Babies. And we see a completely line-drawn, no-color Muppet Babies. And again, this is the segment where I was like, oh, usually the last segment's the worst, but this is the best.
This is actually kind of cool, except for that Gonzo spends the whole time being like, I'm going to color myself green so Piggy thinks I'm Kermit.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Which is something I think they also state again in the next episode, so I don't think that's going anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
But Animal drops crayons all over the babies. And at first it looks like it, would be harming them because they seem quite heavy, sort of like the French fries in the last episode. But they all look around, and Fozzie realizes that it drew a pink stripe down the middle of his face, and they realize they can color themselves in. So Fozzie colors Kermit blue, and he's like, oh, I look like Gonzo. And that's when Gonzo goes, ooh, I could look just like Kermit if I was green. And so he colors himself green, and then he ribbits and bounces over to Piggy, pretending to be Kermit.
He shifts a bit. He withdraws his nose into his body.
He'll do anything for her, Sam.
I like that Piggy colors herself exactly the same as she's colored in the real world. That seemed accurate.
It looks almost perfect. There's like a few glitches around the lines where she didn't quite color in things all the way, but of course the smartest Muppet colors in perfectly.
And she don't need to be a different color because she's perfect the way she is,
But Animal then is a looming threat, apparently, as he races through like a train with like 3 crayons in each hand, coloring everything in sight. And we transition back to the real world where he is actually coloring everything in sight, including the rug and the railings. And this is when Nanny comes back in and says, Animal, what are you doing? And he goes, me not know.
I loved that. That was fun. That was genuinely funny.
Animal has so many good moments in these episodes where he does continue to be my favorite Muppet Baby because he is so chaotic. Yeah. And I feel like he knows he's in a TV show somehow. I just get that vibe from him where he's like, why are you questioning me? This is what we all do all the time.
Yeah. This same scrutiny is not applied to any of the other babies.
But Nanny says the sun is now out. Perhaps you'd like to play outside.
This is all a sick psychological game, though.
Absolutely.
If they said yes, she'd be like, oh, dang, it's raining again.
No, push the rain button.
That sucks.
But the kids decide on their own, or maybe they've been manipulated, that they should actually they prefer to stay inside and just play.
It's fun.
And that's how the episode wraps up.
I do like that Gonzo's like, I'm going to build a geothermal power plant. Like that he sees a page in there that says how to build a geothermal power plant. That was pretty funny.
And he says all they need is paper plates. So weirdly, the last line of the episode is, do we have any paper plates, Nanny?
Yeah, they don't know how to stick a landing quite yet. They haven't figured it out.
Well, I don't mind the moments when it's like the Muppet Babies look at the screen and like say something to us of like, what do you think? That's fine by me. This was just like a line from the middle of the episode was the last line of the episode. And the last episode this week is Fozzie's Last Laugh, which is not about Fozzie dying. Instead, the kids are playing school, Piggy's the teacher, and Fozzie puts a rubber worm in an apple as a prank.
He's doing some good prop comedy in this part. I think that the thing that is frustrating about the beginning here is that this is the funniest he's ever been.
And this is the most I've ever hated Fozzie.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Were you the class clown?
No, God, no.
Okay.
That was a good little boy.
Were you wanting to be the class clown? Did you like respect the class clown?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Like that guy, he knows some shit. He's doing the stuff I wish I could do.
He's going places. Yeah.
And Piggy says the lesson of the day for these babies is Italian history.
Yeah, we learned that Gonzo's extremely Italian.
Yeah, he pretends to be Marco Weirdo, who discovered spaghetti after he was attacked by a submarine sandwich, and he stuffed a cannon with pizza dough, and spaghetti was born.
Sometimes I feel like they're just trying so hard on each of these episodes when really they could just have a whole episode about history. You know, it could be Piggy teaching history. Then they'd have 2 episodes because then you'd have Fozzie not being funny anymore.
Yeah.
They got to stretch their material a little better.
Yeah, I think you can, believe in your ideas a little bit more. Like, write it out. See where it goes. What's the next thing that could happen with Marco Weirdo? But instead, we get Fozzie putting a whoopee cushion on Gonzo's seat when he comes to sit back down after telling his story. And now everyone's pissed at Fozzie for not taking school seriously. I mean, as far as we know, this is the only education they actually get.
That's true. So maybe you really should be trying harder.
Yeah, like Piggy is the Joe March in the Muppet Babies Little Women world here, where she has to teach her own siblings things.
She is an accredited teacher, so you have to show her some respect.
I mean, she's trying to give him a well-rounded education, too, because she pivots to teaching arithmetic next. But Fozzie won't stop cracking jokes, so Piggy puts a dunce cap on him and makes him sit in the corner.
And tell jokes to the wall. The wall throws a tomato at his face.
Yeah, there's like a crayon drawing of a house. And he says, why'd the man put a sweater on his hot dog? Because it was a chili dog.
That's funny.
That's the thing. When he's being annoying, he is telling the funniest jokes he's ever told.
Yeah, exactly.
But when pushed to try and be funny, he tells the worst jokes he's ever told.
He freezes up. That's true.
But Piggy starts handing out the grades. A for music for Ralph. A for being cute for Kermit. A for animal. W for weird for Gonzo. And an F for funny, Fozzie believes, until Kermit rocks his world and says, that's not an F for funny. That's an F for not being funny.
does not follow the convention of the rest of the letter grades. He just straight up gives that F.
But it also, like, Piggy doesn't say that. Kermit just knows Piggy well enough to know what just happened. Like, Fozzie, I have to level with you. There is no way Piggy just put in paper, you are funny.
This is the best setup to any episode we've seen so far, I think, in my opinion.
Yes, I will. I don't know if it's the best. I have a bad memory. Maybe there was better. I think it is very good, natural setup. Like, everything that's happening here feels like it could actually happen within the world of the Muppet Babies and the world they've established here. Even Nanny walks in and is like, how'd your first day of school go? And Scooter's like, I got an A in arithmetic, which seems unlikely because they didn't even start that lesson. Skeeter says she's got an A in gymnastics. And then Nanny learns about the F for Fozzie and makes Piggy apologize for giving Fozzie an F, which she kind of blows the apology, but she does try. So Kermit decides to be the moderator here and says that, Fozzie, why don't you tell Nanny a joke, and Nanny can decide if you're funny or not.
His joke really sucks ass, too.
He says, what's the difference between an orange?
He's trying anti-humor. The world's not ready for it yet.
Yeah, because Nanny's like, what's the rest of the joke, Fozzie? And he goes, that was the joke. But it's not, Fozzie. That's not a thing.
And it's a reoccurring bit in the episode, too. It's no good.
Later on, he says, what's the difference between a potato? And that's not a joke either. And I was I was hoping the end of the episode would have a payoff for that joke. Like, he would come up with a good punchline for, like, what's the difference between an orange? And then here's the punchline. But that doesn't happen. Like, we don't, the point of this story is not, oh, Fozzie actually is funny. He just has to try this thing. The point of the story is, Fozzie, you're not funny, but you shouldn't give up on your dreams, I guess.
But you should keep trying, I guess. Yeah. And the worst part of it all is that his friends are, like, funnier than him, and they know that they're funnier than him, and then they teach him how to be funny, which is so sad. The
next part is that they try to give him funny lessons to turn him into the funniest bear in town. And this is the point where I was like, I'm glad Piggy's on board. But Piggy introduces Kermit Danger Frog to do some stand-up, and he immediately is killing. He's doing great.
Yeah,
he's telling great
jokes.
Sucks
for Fozzie. They're like, you know that thing that you're trying so hard to do your entire life? We can effortlessly do it, and we're hilarious, and everybody loves us.
And after Kermit warms up the audience, he introduces Fozzie to the stage by saying, Fozzie Bear, yay!
He does a yay.
But of course, Fozzie tells a bad joke and gets tomatoed.
I don't remember what it was, but I did write down Fozzie's joke wasn't much worse than Kermit's. So there's a bit of a double standard going on here, I think.
Yeah, it's more of like the show has to, within its logic, Fozzie can't be funny. So even when he tells jokes that we might think are kind of funny, he's going to get tomatoed in the face. Or in the previous episode, he gets dropped into a vat of tomatoes. At some point in an episode, he has to come in contact with a tomato. Gonzo reveals that the true secret to comedy is craziness.
He likes rando humor.
Yeah, he's a real Andy Kaufman. Or maybe more of a Gallagher, now that I'm thinking about it. But he actually says his hero is Steve Martin. We get to see a few actual brief clips of Steve Martin doing comedy. And they go to Weirdsville, in Gonzo's imagination, where there are talking buildings with arrows through their heads, and Gonzo plays his nose to charm a snake, but the snake is a construction worker who comes out of a manhole cover.
And Godzilla's there, too.
Yeah, because Fozzie tries to do something funny and unexpected, and he summons Godzilla by honking his nose.
Which, for some reason, isn't up to snuff with Weirdoville's standards.
Well, and is also weird because after they get sort of disappointed that that's what happened, Gonzo turns to Godzilla and says, thanks for trying, pal. And he pays him off. He, like, slips him money.
Maybe Godzilla should have been funnier.
Right, like, why did Gonzo pay Godzilla to show up? Like, what was he supposed to do that would have actually worked? I don't know. But I like that Gonzo and Godzilla are friends. Animal wants to help and says, funny is fall, funny is trip. And teaches Fozzie that, tripping and falling can be funny. So Fozzie trips and falls in front of everyone, but guess what? He didn't do it on purpose. So this is when he decides he's truly a failure, starts to throw away his joke books and all his joke stuff, and says, I'm giving up comedy for good. And he stands there by the trash can in a way where I felt like he was going to light it on fire. It's like the commercial break is him just sitting there staring at his trash can of things he just threw out. And I was like, feels like he should like toss a match in there or something. But
Nanny wouldn't care. Are you kids burning things in there again?
All right, just don't go outside.
I think she's living the carefree life of knowing that Muppets can't die. Like, there's nothing she could do.
Yeah, she's got a room of indestructible babies that she's responsible for. Well, coming back from commercial, Fozzie says, I'm going to be the most unfunny thing I can be. I'm going to sell books. That sounds pretty unfunny.
Brutal indictment of people who sell books.
Yeah, take that, all booksellers. Fozzie thinks you suck. So we get what I think is the worst part of any of these 3 episodes we watched.
And I don't remember it at all.
Exactly. It's a fantasy sequence of a door-to-door sales bear where he shows up to sell Piggy a 3D holographic stereo encyclopedia.
Right.
And really, they just open a bunch of different encyclopedia volumes. Like they open E, and there's an earthquake, and there's electricity.
Yeah.
They open O, the ocean spills out and starts flooding the house. They try to get the Navy to rescue them, and then naval oranges pour out. Kermit comes out of the
This
K-book.
was the thing that reminded me of Sam and Friends, where I was like, they've done this, but they did the Muppets did a better version of this 30 years ago or whatever.
Right, they've done it on Sam and Friends and Sesame Street, where like Grover shows up as the weather salesman. On Sam and Friends, they buy boxes of weather, I believe is what it is. So yes, it has been done better by the Muppets. But it feels like it has very little to do at all with the plot of this about trying to get Fozzie to be funny.
It's not Fozzie's fault that the books are magical and are ruining everything. That doesn't mean he's a bad salesman.
Right, but he does say, I can't tell jokes, I can't sell books, what good am I? To which Kermit, usually a great friend, says, what kind of attitude is that, Fozzie? You've got to be good at something.
Horrible thing to say.
Yeah, like you must be good at something. I currently can't think of a thing, but I believe in my heart that there must be something you're good at.
In theory, I agree with you, but that can't be true.
So Fozzie suggests he could be a bear rug. And of course, because that's not really going to go anywhere, Rolf comes in to do what he always does and says, maybe you could be a singer so I can play a song.
Nobody ever yells at Rolf for wanting to do the same thing over and over again. They just yell at Scooter.
Mm-hmm. But they sing a song called Waka Waka Waka, where we see a very punk rock style Muppet Babies in a band called the Saucy Tomatoes. But guess what? It's another 50s doo-wop rock and roll song.
Like maybe even slower than most of them are.
But they all look so cool. Like Kermit's got a mohawk. Fozzie's got like this orange wig on. They all look way too cool.
I just wonder why they decided to do this.
Yeah, it's a very odd choice to center your entire show around this like 50s doo-wop vibe when there's no reason to. And Fraggle Rock does so much better at just changing genres for every single song. Well, the fantasy doesn't really go anywhere. It just kind of ends with them throwing Fozzie out of a plane because he's not funny. So he comes back and says, I'm just a dumb bear. And Scooter says, maybe you're not. Maybe you're brilliant. He said, I could turn you into a great scientist. And Fozzie imagines himself as Fozzie Einstein.
They're so bad at names on this show.
Quite, like Marco Weirdo, okay. But Indiana Frog, Fozzie Einstein.
Oh, I hate Indiana Frog.
Yeah.
Kermit's got to get some new material. It would have been better. He could have been like Cincinnati Frog or something, you know? Like he could have had just a different place.
Yeah. But no, Indiana Frog. Scooter tries to teach him the theory of relativity, and he's like, oh, you mean how like bears are related to dogs, so I'm related to Rolf? I'm like,
that's true, I guess.
Guess, kind of. But Fozzie invents anti-gravity chewing gum and then tries to invent a joke formula, which it turns into instant funny. But it really, guess what it is, folks?
Tomato.
It's a tomato. It's a tomato in a beaker that jumps out and hits him in the face, of course.
He does do a pretty good job at being a scientist, I gotta say. He invents some stuff.
He does make anti-gravity chewing gum, for real. So, good job. But Animal, once again, is the saving grace, and also extremely sweet moment. Comes up to Fozzie and says, Fozzie, be happy. Toys make happy.
Which Fozzie takes the wrong lesson from completely. It's like, yeah, I want to be really rich.
He says the words, maybe if I make millions of dollars, I can buy myself happiness, which, is always proven to be true in this world.
Well, I mean, if you can't even imagine yourself being happy and rich, he needs more help than he's getting from Nanny, especially. He needs support.
He's getting zero help from Nanny. Nanny walked in and said, "Hey, Piggy, apologize to that bear." And she kind of did. And Nanny said, "I've done, my work here is done.
See you later. See you in a couple days, kids." See you next week. This time next week.
So we get rich Texas oil rancher
J.R. Fozzie, another horrible name.
Yeah, it's a Dallas homage. I have to imagine Kermit's character in this is an homage to somebody from Dallas, but I've never watched Dallas.
No, he was just kind of he had a very specific shirt.
He's got
on
like a Hawaiian pattern shirt, and he's playing a harmonica, which like those are such specific character traits that we've never seen from Kermit that I have to believe somebody on Dallas does that.
Yeah, and Kermit's extremely rude in this fantasy too, where Fozzie's like, "Oh, I'm really rich," and then Kermit's like, "Well, I guess I don't need to be here anymore. See you later." And he's like, "I'm so sad," and Kermit's like, "Okay, bye."
Yeah, I think the whole thing is they're making Kermit the very chill, they grew up together in the nursery, and now Fozzie's this rich oil baron, and Kermit's just kind of a hippie or something, like lazing about.
Something. Yeah.
But yeah, Fozzie tries to show off his 1,000 cows that put out 10,000 barrels of oil a day.
What does that mean?
I think it's just the kid misunderstanding of okay, so he's an oil rancher. He describes himself as an oil rancher. So I think combining those ideas, he's like, I have cows and I have oil. How do I make those things work for me? But he's miserable and says he hasn't been happy since he was telling jokes in the nursery. And this is the point in the episode where everyone decides, you know what, Fozzie, you do suck, but that's okay.
Yeah, Raul says, I never laughed on the outside, but when Fozzie was happy, it made me smile inside. Tell him that.
As I say, he doesn't even tell him that. Because, one, it's not a very comforting thing, but it is nicer to say to him, at least, than just your other friends where you're like, man, I should really tell him I like him a lot. Well, I never will.
Yeah. I guess I'm happy, you're happy is pretty damning to hear, but it's better than nothing. It's better than I'm giving you an F and I hate you.
Yeah, Piggy tries to cover her tracks by saying, I did say your jokes were terrible, but I never told you to give up on your dreams.
Yeah.
I think somebody like Scooter or Skeeter says, we love to hate your jokes, which is unnecessary.
When you grow up, somebody else can tell you to give up on your dreams, but that is not. We are not the people.
It's coming, Fozzie. Don't worry. Somebody else will definitely tell you that. But for now, we're not going to be those people. But yeah, overall, I guess I said my feelings overall at the beginning. I feel like these are better than season 1 episodes, even though I didn't love the Fozzie episode that much. But I mean, I guess at the moment, how are you feeling about many more episodes of Muppet Babies to come?
I guess really what struck me is that usually, a lot of times between season 1 and 2 of a show, there will be obvious retooling, changes, and I just wasn't getting that. I was shocked how similar it seemed. I do think you're right that the scripts have been shuffled around in a way that makes them more tolerable, but I think they're equally as boring. They're just not as outright incompetent, maybe, as they used to be. No offense to the person who wrote every episode of Muppet Babies, because I know it's hard.
Well, I know that they talked about the first season being on a really quick turnaround, so they didn't have a lot of time to put the show together. And I wonder if, as we go on, if we'll start to see sort of that Fraggle Rock thing where they start to add in more lore.
Some stuff starts to gel, and I mean, that's just not what Saturday morning cartoons did anyway. And I do think contextualizing this with other Saturday morning cartoons, it's better. It probably is better than a lot of them, honestly. But like I've said before, I think it's just not up to snuff with the Muppets to me. So that is what is so confusing about why do people like this? And if I was Jim, I feel like I would watch this and be like, why is this the thing that people are glomming onto?
Cuteness, Sam.
Have they not seen all the other stuff that I've made? But yeah, I guess it is just they could sell McDonald's toys of them and stuff.
And I think it is. It's the most successful of the offshoot baby shows. The Flintstones kids show sucks.
Yeah. I mean, that is totally fair. Where, I mean, I could say Muppet Babies is boring. I don't think I'd ever say Muppet Babies. Would I? Sometimes it sucks pretty bad. I don't know. I have to watch. I'm going to watch some of the old baby shows and see what I think in comparison.
Yeah, you mentioned Gummy Bears earlier, and I'm like, I don't know if Gummy Bears holds up.
Gummy Bears had plot line. I think what I like is world building and plot lines. And Gummy Bears was kind of the Gargoyles model earlier, where it did have like reoccurring enemies and characters that they'd meet and who'd stick around and come back.
We've got Bunsen and Beaker.
We got Bunsen and Beaker. I think Robin's gonna come back once. But, you know, they're not discovering new magical facts about their origin or nothing like the Gummy Bears were.
It does hurt.
You know, the Gummy Bears were like going deep into their like caves and being like, "Wow, the lost city of Gummy Bears." I like that.
It does hurt things when you can't leave the room you're in. And I understand the entire point of the show is to teach imagination to kids, but there is something about always having to do that in the same room. Yeah.
And it's something, I mean, and it pales in comparison to Rugrats, for instance, which is the same show.
You're not wrong.
Done way better with characters that you learn to love. They're the adults. Like, those characters are much more iconic, I would say, than, I mean, you know what, like, Tommy Pickles' dad is like, and that he has a dad. And it's like, you know, what's going on in this weird void of a world that the Muppet Babies live in. But, and like, I think a cartoon about imagining things, to me, when I was little, like, that's just stupid anyway. Because if you're making a cartoon, just make a cartoon where crazy stuff happens, and don't have it be like it was. I hate in movies, especially like when it's like in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, where they're like, it was all a dream. Remember the fun part of this movie? That didn't happen. That's what Muppet Babies is every week.
But now it is time for our Muppet of the Week. Yeah, no, we don't have one this week. Eventually we'll, talk about some more Muppets of the Week when we find one that's interesting to talk about. But we got a lot of Muppet Babies coming up and some more Jim Henson Presents. So I don't think, until our next Sesame Street episode, I don't think you'll be hearing a Muppet of the Week segment.
I honestly am still on the fence as to whether the Muppet Babies are Muppets or not. So,
well, maybe that's a debate we can have if we have a guest on in the future who has a strong interest in Muppet Babies. Teaser, we will probably have that guest pretty soon. All right, Sam, so since it's been a while since we recorded and we both had a holiday break from work, I have to imagine you have been watching a lot of non-Muppet things over the past few weeks.
I have, but I'll edit it down a little bit. I saw Wonka.
Ooh, how was Wonka?
I really wanted to like Wonka, but I didn't. But I didn't really like it that much. I thought it was kind of boring. But everybody I went to it with loved it. So I was the minority opinion in that. I think my problem with it was that, like, Wonka talks about, like, all the fun adventures he's been on in the movie. But the movie is about him trying to settle a contract negotiation, basically. And, like, pay a debt.
Right.
And he's paying a debt in like a fun way, but then he's like, and then I met pirates and I found this bottle of magic, and it's like, maybe we could have seen the bottle of magic.
Yeah.
But everybody else liked it a lot. There's some nice, it's nice and fun. It is by the Paddington guy, so there's a certain level of, like, charm. It's a well-made, charming movie for sure. I think it just was bugging me that he was like, look at my chest of magic ingredients. All right, bro. I would just like to see the magic ingredients and not you washing clothes in the basement of this place that you are. Yeah, it was just like they set up the thing, they set up the problem, and it seemed like that was going to just be like the first act problem, but then it goes through the whole movie, and it's kind of like, I'm sick of seeing these people. I don't need to see this anymore. And then I also, last night I watched The Portable Door. Do you know this?
I don't
It's a
think
Jim
so.
Henson production.
What?
And it's a new movie with Christoph Waltz in it. and actually got a pretty good cast. It has Sam Neill is in it.
All right.
The lady who played
This poster looks like a Doctor Who poster.
Yeah, it's a very It's like Doctor Who meets Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, sort of. It's about this it's almost like Men in Black too, kind of. It's this kid who gets hired to work for this like very mysterious company, and kind of their shadowy founder sees hidden potential in this kid and tasks him with finding this portable door that the founder's dad hid away from him for mysterious reasons. But it was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was it drags a little bit at the end, but fun little adventure story, and a Jim Henson thing. Not as many puppets as you'd think, but there are some kind of good goblins towards the end of the movie that you can tell are puppeted and look pretty good. Oh, and I was gonna also say that I think that if anybody should direct a Muppet movie, maybe they should let the Paddington guy have a shot at it. I think he could do a pretty good job.
See, I think it would be too sweet.
He is good at inserting jokes that are not for kids into his movies.
Yeah, to be fair, Paddington's pretty dark in moments.
Yeah.
So I guess you could get away with it. That'd be interesting.
Wonka was maybe a little too sweet about candy, so it makes sense. But it didn't quite have the same, because it wasn't really set in the real world. There is not that like a little bit of real emotional drama to it. But I mean, I guess the second Paddington's pretty wacky. But yeah, I think he could do he can do a musical, obviously. He can do good staging, and I think that'd be good.
When he can do, it's like there's a lot of CGI in his stuff to like make the big stunt things happen, but it is like almost seamless CGI where everything looks so good. But yeah, I do think that would be really interesting. I think he could do a good one. You've convinced me. Well, I watched a bunch of stuff. We don't have to dive too deep into all of them. But last time we talked, I had just watched the movie Grand Prix, which had Toshiro Mifune in it, who is in all the Kurosawa samurai movies. And so I got into thinking about him for a bit. So I watched a documentary about him called Mifune, The Last Samurai, which was really interesting. And, that's one of those things where I've seen a dozen of that guy's movies, but never thought, hey, I wonder what that guy's like. So that was pretty interesting. I watched While You Were Sleeping for the first time.
Oh, that's kind of a fun little movie.
Yeah, very fun. Very Chicago, very Christmas. So
yeah,
it was a perfect time to watch that one.
Bill Pullman's looking good in that movie, I would say.
Yeah, there's reading through the trivia about that movie. Apparently, Randy Quaid was considered for the role.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, not exactly
different energy.
Who I would put next to Bill Pullman as the 80s heartthrob, 90s heartthrob. Yeah. Also watched Taylor Swift's Eras Tour film, which just endlessly impressive. It's like 3.5 hour long thing, and she's performing the entire time on a moving stage. That I'm just like, oh, what if something went wrong? What if something didn't move the way it was supposed to, and somebody just fell off the stage? I kept thinking of all the technical issues of what could have gone wrong.
What if we see Taylor Swift get squished? Everybody would get the day off work probably.
But on top of that, the other new thing I watched was The Holdovers.
Oh yeah, I watched the end of that. Rachel didn't wait for me, and I wandered upstairs, and she was watching it, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll just watch the end of it. Anyway, what did you think of it?
Well, I like the whole thing, not just the ending.
Okay.
It takes a while to get going in a good way, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like for the first half hour, you're kind of like, I don't really know what the point of this movie is. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
Rachel said it felt a lot like a 70s movie, like very authentically like a 70s movie.
And that is what they are going for. It opens up with the classic Universal opening. It opens up with a little card of like this movie's rated R kind of thing. Like it's supposed to make you feel like you're watching a 70s movie. But they didn't shoot it on film, interestingly enough.
That's what I was about to ask. Did they fake the film?
They did, but I think they do a really good job of convincingly making it look like film.
Me too. I think every movie should do that. I'm sick of watching movies that don't have grain on them.
They shot everything on location, so there's no sets built for the movie.
Right.
And there's a pretty, there's a snowstorm in the movie because it takes place over the holiday break, and apparently that wasn't part of the script originally. Like there weren't scenes outside in the snow, but they got a big snowstorm during filming, and we're like, okay, well, I guess we incorporate this into the movie now.
Huh.
So yeah, very good movie. I would be surprised if they've already won a lot of awards, but I'd be surprised if they didn't win more awards for the acting in it. And the kid has never acted before.
Really?
Yeah, the main kid.
Wow.
There's some story about how he basically like asked to audition for the movie, and they let him, and they're like, well, shit, he's really good. I guess we should put him in this movie. And on top of that, just rewatching Doctor Who, because we are like, I have never seen like the last handful of seasons. My wife has never seen even more than that, and so we're trying to get through all of it before the new episodes start in May, which is probably an impossible task. We're only like a quarter of the way through all the episodes.
All of it, including the old stuff?
No.
Okay, just the new stuff.
Just 2005 to now.
Right.
Which is still like 140 episodes or something like that.
Yeah, I'm interested in watching the new specials that came out.
Yeah.
They sound kind of good.
That's the thing, is like it all looked good to us, and so we were like, well, but we haven't seen a lot of the middle ground stuff. Like I haven't seen the end of Peter Capaldi or any of the Jodie Whittaker stuff. So I got a lot to fill in the gaps on.
Remember when the world had Doctor Who fever for a long time?
Yeah, it was like, what, 2012, 2013-ish?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. It's a little bit earlier than that, 2010 to 20-something.
Yeah. Whenever Tumblr was at its peak, Doctor Who was ruling Tumblr.
Doctor Who and Sherlock,
Yeah, the Wholocks of the world. Well, before we get out of here, we should probably let you know what we'll be watching next time. And surprise, surprise, it's more Muppet Babies, because we are headed into October 1985 as we watch and discuss 3 more episodes of Muppet Babies Season 2. And those are the episodes titled The Great Cookie Robbery, Out of This World History, so maybe you'll get that history episode you were talking about, Sam.
I bet not.
And Snow White and the 7 Muppets.
In my heart, I think that Cookie Monster will be in The Great Cookie Robbery, but I know he won't.
I cannot see that happening. I'm sorry, Sam. But we need to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. Don't forget to go to commitmentstuff.com if you want to check out our merch. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do so on social media at CommitmentPod, or you can email us at mail@commitment.com, and you can follow me at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.